You guys want to hear a funny work story?
Yes, please.
Do it.
So, you guys already heard like the abridged version in our chat, but so as you guys know, I work for a broadband cable ISP, internet service provider. So I spend most of my day going to houses and businesses and fixing their internet. That's just my life, is that I go and I fix their internet. And what's funny is that you end up going back to the same like neighborhoods, the same apartment complexes, the same just general places, and you kind of start learning the tendencies of each place. So like I remember in Texas there was this elderly apartment complex that you just knew that if the elevator was working, it would smell like urine. Like that was a true story. So
as soon as the doors open, it just like urine wall. Just
one of
hits you
those
in the
rare
face.
places that if I was still there, I'd be thankful for wearing a mask, just because I could smell like my own breath and I'd be chewing gum, so that helped mask some of that smell. Or like, if you go to this other retirement home, you'd be dealing with people that just needed help with like the remotes or that sort of thing. It all depends. Well, this past Friday, I was at a particular place that I had been to a bunch of times, and it's just one of those places that I know every time that the drop or the line from the main line in is going to be bad, and it's not necessarily a pain in the neck to replace because it's underground. It's just finding what we
Right.
call the pedestal, which is where like the main line connection is, and then running a new line underneath that, and then running it the right way across their lawn, and letting them know it's going to be there and tying it in underneath their trailer. It's a trailer park. So I show up to this house, and it's just a girl by herself. The back of her sweatshirt said 17, so I'm thinking she's 21, 22. I know she's not the only one that lives there. I can just tell, but she just happens to be the one that's home when the modem's offline, and she puts in the trouble call. So out I go. So sure enough, bad line. Grab my line, running the new line. I'm underneath the skirting of the trailer, putting it all together, running my meter checks, doing the thing that I do. And she kind of frantically comes out to me, like kind of worried and distressed, like I could see in her eyes. She was acting all chill, but she was worried. She said, "Hey, question. How much longer are you going to be?" I said, 15, 25 more minutes, give or take, depending on how this goes. 10 minutes out here and then probably 15 inside or vice versa. Again, I just have to change a couple more things out for you. We should be good to go. And I said, "Why? Do you have somewhere to be?" And because it's just a weird thing. It's like it seems like every time that we have a trouble call come out, someone has to leave. Like I was back in the driveway or our park because it's a busy street or whatever, and I end up obstructing somebody from being able to back out. One time some guy hit me because he couldn't wait. He like literally backed his car up into the side of my van and then left. It became a whole thing. But like, and then of course the police call me and goes, "Well, what was I supposed to do? I had to leave." And the police are like, you couldn't ask the guy to leave. He was in your house. You couldn't ask him to move. But anyways, so I just making sure that she was going to be there. Obviously, we can't be at someone's house in their house without anybody there. And / do I need to move my van? So she said, no, don't worry about it. The modem's been offline. We actually need to get this fixed. So, but yeah, I kind of have something going on. So didn't think much of it. She disappeared back into the house, and I hear a car drive by. And then she comes frantically flying out of her trailer, and she starts giving parking instructions to this vehicle. And I'm thinking, oh, so she's going out with some friends or whatever. And, she wants to hurry up and get going. It's Friday night, so I need to hurry up and finish. No. That's not what happened here. Out of this car walks a boy her age. And he all smug and smiles, got his swag on.
And he sees you in there, and he's like, wait a minute.
No. Fortunately, at this point, I'm outside the trailer, so no, not anything like that. Kind of looks at me, but he does do the look like, oh, there is actually a cable guy here, because clearly she had texted him. And goes in, sits on the couch, says hi to the dogs. He's all, comfortable, throwing his arms back, getting his boots off, like. And she is, I'm telling you, she had pure panic on her face. So clearly,
you need to go right now.
Clearly, this chick lives with her parents, and her parents were out of town or working or out on a date or whatever. And she sent the text. You know the text. Hey, no one's home right now. You want to come over? And this guy boom, made his way right on over. And little did she know, she scheduled.
And Eric Picard was standing in the way of all this.
So I was joking with some of my coworkers. I said, I think she scheduled a trouble call and a booty call for the same time frame, because we were both
calendar mixed up.
She needs a secretary.
I may or may not have purposely taken a little extra time, like changing out the splitters inside, and I made her verify. made her verify the TVs were working and check Netflix and make sure Netflix was
Oh,
working
you're such a
and reboot
jerk.
the box. Oh, I did. I went and said hi to the dogs and like ran out and told the neighbor that the line was, I spent an extra 10 minutes easily.
You look over at the dude and he's just like shaking, sweating, like
No,
When's this guy
she was
leaving?
freaking out. He was all chill, small
Oh, yeah.
talk, just like, had his swag completely on. He knew
Oh,
it was about to
He
go
knew it was about
down.
to go down, so
He
he's just
just
like, dude,
needed
you
me
can
to
do whatever
leave.
you want.
He don't need a whole lot of time either. That's what it felt like.
That's so
Oh my
funny.
gosh. I will say that's incredibly awkward to
You
know
know,
you're in the middle. Like, I am the one thing standing in the way of this happening right
yeah.
now.
There's been more than one occasion where it's like weird things because I've always been in customer service facing. I delivered pizza once, Tyler, when we worked at Papa Gino's, and sometimes I think couples thought it was like a challenge, 30 minutes or less. What can we accomplish in that amount of time? And then someone has to race to the door to get the pizza, like just weird things, like
Right.
all sorts of odd stuff like that have happened. But it is really, really awkward. And I will say, even though I trolled them a little bit, my objective was get in my van and leave because I didn't want to be there anymore. Like I could sense the presence of something about to happen. And I'm like,
Yep.
get me out of here. But
Yeah, no, that's it's hilarious, but if I was in that position, I would feel incredibly awkward the entire time. That's just cringe.
it was
I know
so
what you're
cringe.
about to do and what you're waiting to do, and I'm sorry I'm here. I can't.
That's exactly how I thought.
You don't need cable for this, right? I can just go like.
Hey, you need the internet to work for Netflix and chill to be done. So they did actually need me there. I really wanted to look the guy in the eyes and say have fun and then just walk out the door, but I was too chicken to do it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's
hilarious.
I don't know that I would have. Yeah, no.
That would have been
Don't
too
do
far.
that. That's way too far.
There was already a lot of nonverbal going on there, so I just knew it was time for me to leave. So I did. Anyways, that's how we're starting.
Cool.
This is how we start today's episode. So this is the Under 500 podcast.
All right. Welcome back to the Under 500 podcast. I am Tyler, and I am joined, as usual, by my two buddies, Eric and Aaron. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tyler. How are you, buddy?
I am exhausted but ready.
Nice.
Aaron?
All right.
I can take it.
No, I'm doing good, man. I'm chilling. It was a good day today. Good family day overall. No complaints.
Oh, yeah, today was
Madre's Day.
Mother's Day.
That's right. So we just chilled. We didn't do anything too crazy. My mom lives out in Springfield. Her mom lives in Vermont. So we just hung out with us today. Ate some food. I was gonna grill up some steaks, and then apparently the last time I grilled, I forgot to turn the propane off, and completely blew through the tank. And so when I went to turn it on, we couldn't do it.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah,
Rookie mistake.
I've done it 4 times now.
That's why you get a wood pellet grill.
Well,
propane is so much cheaper, though.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
No,
Less
it's cheaper
effort.
than that, charcoal.
Charcoal
And
is
I
pretty cheap.
love a charcoal grill.
I can never get them started right. It takes me forever to really figure them out.
It takes more. It's more of a science. Definitely more of a science for a charcoal grill, and I don't.
It takes a lot longer too. Those coals, I mean, they get hot, but not.
You know what I don't like about the propane grills is not only do you have to turn the propane on, but usually in the dead of summer, if you haven't used it in a while, you have to like pay attention to what might be living because there's a lot of holes.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've started that thing, and then before I've opened it, like I hear something, and then I open it, and there's a bunch of dead hornets. Which I have a phobia of hornets. By the way.
Oh, that's No, dude,
bees.
Hornets
Anything that can sting me it freaks me out genuinely.
Bees don't bother me. I've educated myself on bees and how important they are and how they really aren't that violent. I've been stung a couple times by bees.
Hornets are just like
hornets and yellow jackets. Yeah, they just if they feel like you sniffed the air the wrong way, they're coming after you with everything.
And they can keep stinging you like a honeybee. They have to be a little more selective because they die. So they go like, this has to be worth it. A hornet's just like, I can just keep stinging you. just because I don't like you. Like, they're just really mean bugs. I don't like them.
They're
Stay
horrible.
away. I've never been stung either, so I don't know if I'm allergic. So I could be.
I got stung on the nose one time.
You've never been stung?
No, I stay clear. As soon as like I was told as a little kid, those things sting and they hurt. I run like a baby whenever one comes and when one comes around me.
Yeah.
I don't mess with them.
Everybody has that one thing, right?
Yeah.
So what's yours, Tyler?
I can't think of anything other than a bee, or like anything that can sting me that flies, that freaks me out as much as that does. Like, so if we're talking animals, this is that you guys are gonna laugh at me for this, and my wife does it all the time. But if we're talking about animals that make you feel uncomfortable, that you just don't feel comfortable living on the same planet as them, it's ostriches and emus.
Dude, no, those are demons.
Yeah, like
They're absolutely demons.
I could actually agree with that.
I genuinely am like there's this place we used to go apple picking in like Andover or something like that, and they had emus there, and I just got one look at an emu and it's just black beady eyes, and I know
their eyes are they're demon eyes,
and I was just like, I'm out. So it's a bird that's too big. It's just a big.
Because you realize, and you look at their feet. Have you seen their feet?
Yeah.
Like those got claws on them. Like those things kick you, you're disemboweled.
Yeah, I'm all set. I don't feel comfortable that they exist. I wish they all died in the flood.
You guys should follow on. You guys should follow on Instagram. Nature is Metal.
Oh, I
just started following.
I love that page.
It's a really hard page to follow for
some gnarly stuff on there.
It can be really rough.
There's a video the other day of a seal. They got
don't
bit
by
a shark, but was still its lower half was gone. It had no flipper, but it was still swimming, and its like intestines were hanging out, and it was still going. I was like, dang, that seal's tough.
Yeah, so those aren't the ones I like. The ones I find really fascinating are like, the scorpion killing the bug, or like there was one of a bald eagle and it flew in the air and like caught a seagull midair, landed and ate it. Like that's cool to me.
Yeah,
a sea lion that's dying wasn't that great. That was just rough. So if you can't, but this page actually tries to educate people. Like the reason why they share these things
captions are really good.
Yeah, and they like talk about how like this is what happens in nature, and the reason why I share these specific videos is because people don't try and save the animals. They just are capturing what naturally happens when humans aren't around, to educate people that just because a shark is eating something doesn't mean a shark is inherently evil. It's just what it does. It eats things.
Trying to live. Yeah, so we're saying all this because Nature is Metal. If you ever hear this, we would love for you to sponsor us.
There you go, Aaron.
So just we're giving you a shout out now for free, but we'd be willing to do this for a little extra cheddar, So
cheddar.
Yeah,
cheddar.
A little extra cheddar.
Tyler, we want to talk about something that is kind of more up your alley. Let's talk about how the Red Sox are the first 20 wins.
First MLB team to 20 wins, and through the weekend have sustained the best record in the MLB.
That is crazy, man.
Hasn't their pitching come down a little bit though?
Yeah, but the bats are just on fire.
Is their bats good enough to compensate for their pitching down the stretch?
Yeah, absolutely. And our pitching's only half bad. They got like 3 guys in the lineup that are good. Garrett Richards continues to be pretty okay. He did get 4 earned runs the other day, but he's still going 7 innings.
Yeah, at least he's a body that can get innings. I will give him that.
What do you think is the real pitching? Do you think it's what they're experiencing right now in the slump, or is this just a mini slump and their pitching really is what it was at the beginning of the season?
It's really only that first series that they kind of sputtered out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
Because since then they've been really good.
Yeah. It's just like because we're gonna get caught up in a series versus a good team to where it's like weird in the rotation, and we're gonna get beat up, and the bats aren't gonna be able to pick it up. But that's one series. The pitching, like now as it stands, is doing okay. The guys at the bottom of the lineup, like Garrett Richards and Pivetta, they're just not good enough to rely on. But when your offense is as good as it is and continues to do as good as it does, you can have a mediocre guy throw 7 innings. If you can get 7 innings out of him, you've exceeded expectations. So, 21-13 is
22-13.
Are they 22 and did they win today?
Yeah, apparently, because that's what the record is now.
22-13. So they won today.
Wow.
Which is the single-handed best record in baseball. They own that.
Do you think they should pick up a pitcher by the deadline, just as another arm?
I just don't know what you could give up.
Oh, what happened to the Dodgers? Jeez.
Yeah, they're in a slump.
They plummeted.
Yeah,
But it is only
they're
May.
slumping.
Yeah, it is only May. So I think that their pitching is good enough and their bats are good enough, maybe not to get them all the way, but I think they're going to get into the playoffs and maybe make it interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be very curious to know what happens next year if they can keep this roster and then they get Chris Sale back, who they do have to manage because he does get worn out. But if the pitching's already can get them a decent playoff run, you get Chris Sale back and maybe add a couple more pieces. Maybe you could make actually a really deep playoff run. But in the same hand, I don't know if the Yankees are going to continue to be as bad as they are all of this year and then all of next year. So if the Yankees actually get their butt together or their crap together and get their butt in gear is what I meant to say. Next year they could be the best team in baseball simply because of the roster that they have. But they have to fire their manager.
Right, and I think that's going to happen after the season if they keep doing as bad as they are. I think they're going to move on from Aaron Boone and probably pick up somebody that's like really good and somebody a really good manager with this team is like terrifying. They're just poorly managed.
So does that mean that the Red Sox window before the Yankees get really good again, which is just inevitable with that team because of the ownership and because of just the history there, is the window quite literally this year, and they need to buy now and maybe sell out a little bit more of their future to get themselves maybe another deep playoff run because they know the Yankees are going to come back next year? Or do they risk it and go another year and see what they got? Maybe we have another Yankees Red Sox kind of, duel for a pennant race, which I would love, by the way. Relevant September baseball as it relates to a pennant race and a position in the playoffs is fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. You really can't say because like they haven't even faced each other yet this year. So we don't know how they're playing against each other. And I know thinking into the future, like the Yankees aren't going to be like this, probably not even all this season. And definitely not next season, especially if they move on from Aaron Boone. I just don't know what the Red Sox should do. The young guys on the team, like Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, Eduardo Rodriguez, Alex Verdugo. I really hope that guy stays in Boston forever.
I like that kid.
He's amazing. Some of the Bobby Dahlbeck, if he just stops being bad at the plate. Incredible first baseman. He's so good. So I don't know what you do because you already have the weapons on the team that are being supported by probably coach of the or manager of the year. I don't even know if that's an award that they do in the MLB, but he deserves it. I think a lot of people keep making the joke that the MVP of the AL is Alex Cora this year, which they got a point. Just because of what he's been able to do with a team that was so incredibly bad the past 2 years. So I don't know what the future holds for them. I don't know what they should do. We're talking about the Yankees. Aggressive seems like the right play. Be aggressive. I think that's what they should do. But don't be stupid.
Be aggressive, but don't be stupid.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. So yeah, I would agree. Don't sell out, but maybe you take a small risk,
right.
A risk with a lowercase r, something of that nature.
Risk that's not going to plummet you into the abyss for the next 3 years, like they
not
did
a Dave
Mookie
Dombrowski
Betts.
risk. Yeah.
Right. Don't sell Mookie Betts.
Yeah. Or get rid of John Lester. Or I mean, there are so many things the Red Sox have done over the years that I just go, why? Why did you do that?
Yep.
Talk about a poorly managed team overall.
Did Mookie want to leave though?
He expressed after the season that we didn't even make it to the playoffs. He expressed his discomfort in Boston. But I don't know if he necessarily wanted to leave. I think he just wanted to change.
Okay.
And it was a change that I don't think that the Red Sox could have provided for him. But I still feel like they could have done something to keep him.
I think the fact that they put him in arbitration was a bad look, and then the racism was a bad look.
Yes.
And then someone
Yeah.
else said, "We'll pay you a whole lot of money for you to come play with us." I think
a lot of money.
I think he was out either way, but I think he was out because the Red Sox alienated themselves from him over the course of a couple of years.
Yep.
So
100%
bad
agree.
management on
but
on the Red Sox
still
part.
on the Red Sox there.
Yeah,
'cause it's
that's
like
what I
they
think.
could have. Yeah. Either way, then that doesn't look good on their part.
No. The Red Sox have been really good the past decade at getting rid of good players. So
It's so true.
Not what you want to be known for.
no, not at all.
No, you don't want to be known for that when you don't consistently win, because the Patriots also got rid of good players that we all went, why? And then you realize that
And they
they're
still make the
bust.
playoff runs. Yeah.
Yeah, and they still win. Like Vince Wilfork, they got rid of him, and I thought, why?
Right.
Because I mean,
Mhm.
what benefit
a
do you
staple.
have? He was, but they went on and won 2 more without him. So okay, so you knew when it was time to get rid of a player. He retired, I think, a couple of years later,
Yeah,
right?
and,
So
and after he left the Pats, he wasn't the same player.
No.
He's kind of just washed up at that point.
but that's a reflection of their good ability to like talent assess and like assess players as it relates to like what the team needs and what that player is going to be for the team. Plus, like if they know the player's not going to re-sign, might as well just trade you now and get some value, for you.
Yeah.
But the Red Sox haven't ever done that. They just kind of
because Mookie Betts went to LA and just got better.
and they got nothing. They got nothing.
We got Verdugo out of the trade. I'm pretty sure he came in that.
Okay.
Was it
all right?
No,
so they
was
got
it Verdugo or Pilar? I forget. Either way, the
right,
return
well,
obviously the return.
Yeah.
It's not Mookie Betts.
Let's keep moving. So that's MLB, which I mean, we're kind of in the early part of the MLB. It's fun to talk about these kind of things, but really, like, we don't know what the MLB is going to be until later on this year for sure. But it is cool where things are right now. But the NHL is about to hit the playoffs. And there's a couple thoughts I had. First off, Tyler, if I told you the name of a team and said they're in first place and might win the Stanley Cup, would you laugh at me or tell me they have a legitimate shot? Ready? Here we go. Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, or don't say anything.
I don't know. I don't know.
All that moved were his eyes.
They're just
they're the laughing stock of the league.
Yeah, but they got 76 points, don't they?
They have 76 or 77 points, but they're the laughing stock of the league, and they didn't play with the people they didn't play with the other teams they would normally play with, because I'm pretty sure the Bruins are in their same division on normal years. Yeah. But because it's a Canadian only league, they play different teams than they would normally play.
Sure.
And they happen to be exceptionally good, and they're trying to win something, but they're like, I don't know, they're like the Browns of the NHL. Okay, they have a huge fan following. They get into the playoffs, which I guess is more than what the Browns could say over the course of history.
They haven't done that much in the past.
And then they
years.
choke. They always choke. So I don't think the Maple Leafs are going anywhere. I think it's going to be a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Are they in the Bruins division?
No, not this year, because they're in the Canadian division.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Are they?
Secondly, what do you think what do you think about the Bruins right now, Tyler? Let me start off with that.
I haven't paid attention much like recently. That I don't know how did things work out with that trade that they did.
So they're the hottest team in the league right now after the trade deadline.
Okay, well that's amazing.
They're in third place in the East Division.
Well, that's good.
I've not had time to pay attention to like anything.
They're all I've been paying attention to right now is the Bruins, and so that's actually been the team I've really been following. I've been kind of like low key following the Red Sox, like keeping up with the box score. No, I'm just waiting. This is what I always say. I can't watch the Red Sox. And plus, like, to watch the Red Sox, I mean, we've talked about this before, but to put on a Red Sox game is like to invest 4 or 5 hours. And to put on a Bruins game, if they're on at the same time, I'm only investing maybe 2.5. And they have those 20-minute period or intermissions that I can walk away and do something or put Ben to bed or, whatever. So, like,
good point.
there's there's like it's just easier to follow the Bruins game than it is the Red Sox. But obviously, when the Red Sox heat up and or the season heats up, I'll be following the Red Sox a lot more closely. And I hope that does. I don't think that makes me a fair weather fan. I just think that's what baseball fans are. Is like the early part of the season, you follow the box scores, and then when it gets interesting later on, you're really
you're right,
following
right.
it. But no, I've been following the Bruins and been following the NHL, and I know that the Bruins and the Capitals have huge beef in that the Capitals have
They've
beef
always
with
had the
everybody.
Capitals.
And they're probably going to face off first round of the playoffs. So Pittsburgh's in first place in their division, and then it goes Washington, Bruins, Islanders. I think that the Bruins match up well against the Capitals
That was
because
going to be
even
my
though
question to you: is do you think they'd win in a series against the Capitals?
I think they will because I think they match up well. But
How
I
have they been record wise with them this year? Do we know how those series went?
I think it's about even, but the Bruins might have the advantage by 1 or 2 games.
Okay.
It's hard in hockey because like they could go to overtime and the Bruins could lose in a shootout, but is that a real reflection of how the teams really played? You know, like those sort of things. Well, they lost. You know, their record is that they tied or lost in overtime 3 times. Okay, well, 2 of those were shootouts, and it just happened that they had Tuukka Rask in net, who I don't trust. I want Swayman in net. That boy has.
The Bruins could still fall to the 4 seed.
I don't think they are.
They only have 2 games
They clinched
left.
a berth.
Yeah,
Yeah, they clinched a berth for sure, but there's 2 games left, and one of them is against New York.
Yeah, one's against the Islanders, who they aren't that good against.
Yeah, so if they do lose that game, there's a chance they could slip to the 4th seed if like they lose to New York, and New York wins their other game.
Right.
I don't know if that makes a big difference to the Bruins though. Like, so that
Well,
means they don't face the Capitals first round.
In Washington,
I think they could beat Pittsburgh easy. That's
really?
what I think, but I could be wrong about that because they've beat Pittsburgh pretty. They did that Tahoe game, which was wicked cool to watch. By the way, they played a game on Lake Tahoe outside, and it was against Pittsburgh. That was a good game, and they blew them out like 7-0 or 7-2.
Crosby's still with them, right? Is he still with Pittsburgh?
Yeah, this might be one of his last years, so that factor might be into it. Like they're gonna go try and win one for Sidney Crosby. So they could be playing just out of their skates because they're trying to get this guy one more championship. I think he has one, but
does he?
I don't know.
How old is he now?
I'd have to look that up. So this is again, I'm kind of like a new guy to the sport.
Now. Wow. Oh, man, I remember when he first came in, he was like a young hot shot. Now he's
only 33.
He might actually. There's someone else then that's retiring.
Is it Ovechkin?
No, that's on.
Young.
That's on Washington. Ovechkin's in Washington, I believe.
He is.
Yeah, I just don't know how old he is.
He's getting up there too, though.
Jeez, all these guys are getting like. It means I'm getting old. That's what that means. I remember.
Yeah, it's really a side note. It's uncomfortable to know that half of the NFL stars these days are younger than us.
For real? Oh yeah, Ovechkin's 35.
Oh, he's 35.
Yeah.
Dang, I thought he was like freshly 30.
I remember like growing up, like these two are like the young guns who are like the faces of the league, and now I'm like, oh, you guys are like old now.
Yeah.
So wait, that means I'm getting old.
Even still, if they have a couple more years, how many more years do you think they have with Crosby that he's getting up in age? So I don't know. I feel like they're trying to I remember hearing something about this. Like there's one other guy on that team who I'm just, his name is escaping me, that's going to retire soon. And so it's just like with the Bruins big guys are getting up there in age. They're not young guns anymore. So
yeah, because what is what's his face? What is his
Baptiste Bergeron and Brad Marchand? They're in their 30s too.
They're well in their 30s now. Yeah.
So they're trying to go out and I think Tuukka Rask is in his 30s as well.
Yeah.
So they're trying to go out and win one as well for them. But if I'm honest with you, I think they're winning one after they get rid of Tuukka Rask or they let him do the backup stuff. I don't know. When I see Jeremy Swayman in net, I just don't have trust in him. And even still, when Jeremy Swayman's in net, he's had 2 shutouts and like goalie stuff. You got to kind of take the hot hand, the guy that's been, and obviously the way the Bruins have done it, they've had 3 different goalies and they've kind of rotated him in. And that's what several other teams do as well. They don't just have one goalie. They have a couple or 3 and they kind of rotate them through. But when you get to playoffs, you got to put the guy in net that you trust is going to give you the best chance to win by stopping pucks that no one else will.
In the past, they've done that. I know the Bruins have done that in the playoffs where they'll just be like, hey, this kid's playing well.
Yeah.
Stick him in there. Yeah.
It's like he didn't play much in the regular season, but he's killing it right now. And they'll put him in over the starters. So I know
that's what you have to do. Yeah, you have to have a goalie that's kind of feeling himself at the moment, and metaphorically, of course, and like they just are feeling like that. I'm going to go out there and win one for you guys and steal a game away. So
metaphorically, yes. Yeah.
I felt like after our intro, I had to clarify that. So
The goalies are just feeling themselves in the net. It's great. It's great TV. Great TV.
I'm actually really excited for playoff hockey. This should be an interesting one. I think this will be a
well, the change up in
year.
divisions is pretty cool. You see different matchups you wouldn't normally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. I don't, I really hope my take stays pans out and does well, but I know that Eric's going to give me a lot of crap if it doesn't. So
I won't give you crap if they make a deep playoff run and they just fall short. If they get to like, the championship round or even the Stanley Cup playoff round and they, they're in the Stanley Cup finals and they end up losing, I'm not going to get you.
So like
you were close,
like 7 years that they've done that every year.
Yeah. So like, I'll give you credit. Like you've taken past history and you look at the team and you know what they're capable of and you say, I think they can do it. I don't disagree with you. But if they fall flat on their face winning one of the first 2 rounds, Tyler, I'll be like, bro, we noticed they were in trouble months ago.
I hope that doesn't happen for the sake of my take and for the sake of I want the Bruins to win. They're long overdue.
I love listening to hockey on the radio just as much as I like watching it. So like driving home from work and the Bruins are playing and I got that thing cranked up. I like that. So yeah, you're right. I'm going to miss that. But the beauty is by the time the hockey playoffs are over, if the Bruins make a long run, I only got like a month or 2 left before I can listen to the Patriots. So, or watch the Patriots.
I cannot wait for football season.
Eric, I'll say, I love how this year you've embraced the NHL and you've
really have
all in, and you are a legitimate fan now.
I'm a legitimate puckhead now. Yes,
you be like, because you said you're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna.
You stuck with it.
I'm gonna invest in watching the NHL, and I'm gonna learn the sport, and you have. So
I have to say, like I legitimately like watching sports. So like that's why people pick on me, but I watch NASCAR. I just watched the end of the race at Darlington a few minutes here.
You love circles.
They're ovals and tri-ovals
really
and road course.
Sometimes
but anyways, I like the drama. I just like sports drama in general. I will say what's cool about hockey is it has everything I like about a sport in it. There's skill. Like I've watched players put pucks in net that were just absolutely skilled in like a clinic.
Yeah.
And I've also seen them that are just total dumb luck. The guy just goes, look, I'm just going to slap shot it over there. And it bounces off his opponent's skate off of someone else's pad and then hits something. And then by a millimeter, it slips under the top bar and it's a goal. Like I love the chance part and the skill part. And I love that there's intricate rules, but that there's also like, we're going to send a message and we're going to bury you into the into the boards if you say something or do something we don't like. Yeah. It's everything it's the violence plus the skill that I love.
And then you add on the goalies feeling themselves. And so it's just
that's
everything you need in a game.
That's all I need is just big men in the nets feeling themselves. Yeah, that's it. Tyler one day is going to take like these out of context clips of us and put them together.
I think he was looking down. He's like, and cut and edit, blackmail, and we'll put this in a folder.
At the time, putting timestamps on the recording,
writing it down.
Yeah, he's gonna blackmail all of us.
You guys want to do some NFL and use it as a pathway into something maybe a little controversial that we're gonna tread lightly into?
Oh man, well. You heard it first, Under.500 fans. This could be the last episode before we are canceled. So we're going to try not to have that happen. But before we get there, let's talk about DK Metcalf. We all know the freak athlete that he is. We've seen him, especially this past season. The dude is a stud. He's 6'4", roughly around 230 pounds, and he ran a 4.3 40 at the combine. But I mean, we've seen what he's done on the field, and there's some clips. I know it was all over Sports Center, a couple of his plays when he tracked down that guy who got the interception. I mean, he was burning, and so there's no doubt he's one of the best flatline runners in the league. And you hear all the time in the NFL, you hear the announcers and commentators talk about how the world-class speed of NFL players. And Metcalf, I don't know why, like what his reasoning was for doing this, but he decided he wants to put his speed to the test and race actual professional U.S. sprinters. He went to the Golden Games to participate in that, and he came. I love how I read an article, and it says he went up against the best and came in 9th place. Yeah, well, there were only 9 runners. So I was like, you could just say he also came in last. Now, I don't want to discredit DK. He is a freak athlete. And in the NFL, he's one of the fastest players. But there is a very, very big difference between NFL speed and like professional track speed. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, like 24 miles in 2 hours.
That's what they're trained. Like they're trained in form of running, how to distribute their weight and their force when they're running. Even your arm swing, there's technique to it. I mean, these guys, to put it simply, like DK ran a 10.33 100-meter, which that's fast. But in order to qualify for the Olympics, you have to go under 10.05. And that's a massive, massive difference. And a lot of these guys are running sub 10 times. So 10.3 is actually pretty slow compared to what these guys are doing. So I know some people are like, oh, DK is gonna go out there and he's gonna like show them that he's just as fast. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's quick in as far as like football and basketball. It's like, but he's not going to stand a chance. I actually read an article where some U.S. sprinters were actually kind of chomping at the bit that he was coming to race because they wanted to prove that they don't have world class speed. We got world class speed, and so they were actually kind of
What
like,
happens when he beats him?
He's not going to. So why is he doing this?
I don't. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it because if he's trying to prove something, I hope someone in his corner would be like, "Hey, bro, like if you're trying to prove something here, you're gonna fail miserably." So I don't know. I'd hope someone would say that to him, or maybe if this is just him just wanting to get out of his comfort zone and try something else. I don't really understand his aim, for why he's trying to do this.
I feel like he's proven a lot on the field. Like he's one of the best receivers in the league.
Yes.
Like if you said name the top 5 best receivers in the league right now, I mean we could argue him. I don't know, 2 through 5, maybe number 1. Like I don't like you can have that conversation.
You could argue him in the top 5.
If someone said he's the best receiver in the league and here's why, and gave you a bunch of stats and proof to support it, would you say, no, that's absolutely dead wrong? Or would you say, all right, let's entertain that and break it down? Like he's one of those guys.
We can have a talk about that because he's that good and he's that gifted. But again, I don't know if he actually thought he had a chance. If he did, I think he's a little delusional.
Yeah.
Because I have a buddy that I went to school with in Springfield College, and it was Division III. And he actually won the national championships in the 100-meter, and he ran a 10.33, which is what DK ran in the 100-meter. But that's Division III. And then he went to go to his parents were from Barbados, so he actually went to the Commonwealth Games, which were in India, to run for Barbados. And he was one of the best in Division III in our country. And then he goes there, and this kid's the fastest person I've ever met in my life. Like I've raced him once just to see what it was like, and it was absolutely comical. It looked like I was jogging, and he was just like, and he wasn't even trying hard, and he just like torched me by a couple seconds. It was bad. But he
like the kid in Incredibles.
Yeah, like it's insane how fast this kid is. But he goes to the Commonwealth Games, and he didn't win. He wasn't close to winning, and he didn't even qualify for the Olympics. And so that's the level of speed that these track guys have. It's like, to put it in perspective, the Usain Bolt has the world record at 9.58 seconds. That is ludicrous how fast that is. That would so if him and DK were to race at the same time, Usain Bolt would cross the line, and it would be a significant, probably about almost 20 meters or so between him and DK.
Because you hear that, this is what I know just from watching racing in general. Is like you hear the second difference, you're like, that's not that much. But when you're actually racing and you see it in like
it's
feet,
a lot.
They do that actually. This not to relate this, but to relate this in like NASCAR. They always tell how far behind the leader you are. But when there's a race for like first, they'll put it in feet, and like the feet, you realize that like 300 feet could be like 0.02 of a second depending on the racetrack. Like it can make a huge difference.
No, because if you just see the times, you're like, oh, it's not that. It's like It's
You
like
only have to shave off a second, and you're the
3/10 of a
fastest in the
second.
world.
3/10 of
Yeah.
a second is that's a massive amount of time in sprinting and in racing, especially with car racing. That's even more so. 'cause
Just
of
in
the speed
general,
we're
when you're
hitting.
dealing with seconds in racing, I mean, and with people or with animals, it's harder because I mean, you can't find horsepower in your body. Like you have to
Right.
run faster. What if you can't physically run faster? You
Yeah.
know, you got that horse wide open. He's running as fast as he possibly can. That doesn't mean he's going to be fast enough.
I have one quick thing before we get into the other stuff. Just
Yeah,
kind of
what's
like
that?
it's a question for you guys is out of all the sports and the athletes in their respective sports, which sport do you think has the athletes that could potentially play any other sport and be mildly successful? Like has the best crossover to other sports? Who do you think? Like if you were to pick one sport that could transfer the most?
I have to
Yeah.
say football because how many football quarterbacks have been drafted as pitchers or play positions in baseball?
Well, yeah, that's the big two is baseball
That's
and
true.
football. They usually interchange.
Yeah, and I don't know if a baseball guy would translate well to a football guy
No, definitely not.
because it's a
No,
totally different
yeah, it definitely
mentality,
doesn't
but a
flip. It
football
doesn't.
guy would translate.
Bo Jackson.
I
He's
also
another
know that like
example.
didn't what's his name? He used to play in Houston. Why am I blanking on his name? The big guy in Houston. Why am I
Um,
blanking? He
for
he
NFL.
plays on defense.
NFL.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. What? I think he played hockey, and I think that he
Oh
had a
my
choice to pick
gosh, that would be terrifying.
the
I would
I think
not want him
because
in the board
he's
game.
from like Minnesota or so. Oh, I don't know why I couldn't remember JJ Watt, but
That would be
I think he's
so
from
scary.
Minnesota, and I think that he used to train his off season on skates, like that he almost played hockey, and then he played football.
That's terrifying. That's not
So
the
yeah,
person I want
football.
to check me
Football's
into
my
the
answer.
boards.
No, I'd be terrified of that man.
You know, I don't know. I actually don't know if I agree with football, and I don't even think I could name a sport because, like, yes, a lot of football players can play baseball, but like it's the physique of each sport is so vastly different. Because like in baseball, you want to be like agile, and you want to be like, if you're a pitcher, you want to be like tall and lanky, and you don't want to be too like big if you're a pitcher, because then you lose leverage. And in football, it's all about bulk. Like unless you're like a wideout, like you want to bulk up. In basketball, it's tall and lanky with a good amount of muscle. And then in hockey, it's just how tough you can be. I mean, height advantage really isn't that much unless you're a defenseman.
Yeah, but don't you think a tight end in football or a defensive end in football could translate pretty well to a hockey player or like a baseball guy that's just hitting for power? Maybe not so much basketball like that. And I don't mean that like in any of those situations, Sunday morning they're getting ready for football. They play football at 1 o'clock for Houston, JJ Watt, for example, and then he's in Boston playing for the Bruins at 7 o'clock. Like I don't mean that, but couldn't they, and not to take your question and run with it, Aaron, but couldn't they translate over the course of like a year if they recondition their bodies a little bit? But like in real time, they might be able to be there and be okay, but they'd have to do a little bit different training to kind of fine tune the different muscle sets.
Yeah,
Because
well,
isn't that, if you watch Save the Last Dance,
I was just gonna
isn't
say
that
they talk about that.
yeah, he had to like
His trainer talked about that.
and he was actually starting to get pretty good,
He
Michael
was.
Jordan, and then the whole lockout happened.
Yep, and then he had to go back to the NBA, and then he had to retrain that.
Yeah.
So he had to train for baseball to get into baseball shape. And then when he went back to the NBA, it took time for him to get back into NBA shape.
So
So
the
you're
NBA
right,
is
Fortunately
like,
for training for baseball shape means that you just kind of eat and sit around and let yourself go and just hit the
just
baseball.
work on your hand-eye coordination. So, but the only thing that's hanging me up about all this is like it's basketball. Like NBA playing basketball is just like that one sport to me where I don't know of any athlete. Granted, it's very different, but I don't know any athlete that can go into an NBA game and like perform and do well against the people that are currently in the NBA.
That might be true, but
there was
wouldn't a
Bo
football
Jackson
player
was
get close enough?
I don't know. Like I can't think of anybody that would be that good. But like, with baseball and the football translation, like Bo Jackson was great at both, like very good at both. So I don't know. It's just the basketball's hanging me up because I don't, and it's not like I'm trying to find a specific person that I think could do it. It's just like, it's so different. Like the way you play, the way you train is just so different for basketball than any of the other sports. And it's like, it's a tough game. I don't know.
What do you think, Aaron? What's your take?
So I know you guys love baseball, and this isn't against. I think baseball is just so specialized, and with this is such a specific, specialized skill set that it can't transfer well to other sports, and that's fine because they have to be really good at things that no other sports really do. Like hitting a baseball, I think we've all said and agree is arguably the hardest, right? Maybe not even arguably the hardest thing to do in sports.
Yeah.
That's such a specialized movement. You have to have all your talents focused on that, and pitching and throwing, so it doesn't really translate well. For me, the top two, it would be in the NFL. If I had to pick, would be out of positions would probably be like a running back or a tight end, just because they don't have the height, but they do have the speed, agility, power, and strength that can transfer to most sports. Like, because there's guys in the NBA who are shorter, but most running backs have great speed, can still jump, are very powerful. That's going to translate onto the court as well. But then in the other one is you have some freaks in the NBA, like LeBron.
Yep.
That's a guy. He was an all-state football player too, and honestly, he has the physical skill set where he probably can't skate at all. I don't know. Like, I'm assuming he probably can't skate, or if he has skated, he doesn't skate well. But if you were to get him to train on skates, he's got speed and strength that could potentially translate into that.
Sure.
Of all the sports athletes out there, I feel like LeBron would be the one to surprise you, lace up some skates and
Just
do
be good at it.
backflips out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think he's the guy that could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I can't just say NBA in general, because Kevin Durant's a phenomenal basketball player. He would get snapped in half on the football field.
Oh yeah, he's a twig.
But there are some outliers in the NBA who I think could, like him and Eric Bledsoe of the Bucks. He looks like he's built like a running back.
Sure.
Fantastic basketball player, but that dude could probably play running back for a couple teams. He's just built like that.
I bet you Steph could play baseball.
He's good at baseball.
Oh, is he?
I think he used to play. He played when he was younger. He played baseball.
I do feel like the hang up here is that because I think those three sports kind of work well together. In some, the hockey one is just totally different because it is a totally different movement. You have to learn, like, you're not using your feet. Like, even though baseball is it's the same thing with baseball too. Like hitting a baseball, like hockey, you're not just walking around or running around. You actually have to
thing.
Yeah, and you're using completely different muscles. So
Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to do the other three, and then you put on a pair of skates. you look like Dumbo out there trying to learn how to walk or something.
For me, the best overall athletes, like again, there's always outliers in every sport, but I don't know. To me, the MMA guys are they're nuts. Because at the end of the day, they're beating, like, their sport is I beat you up, and so I don't care.
That's true. That's a good point.
I don't care you can play basketball better than me. Good, but cool. But if we fight, I'm destroying you. So it's the ultimate end all argument.
That would translate well to hockey too.
Right. And so it's because you could be like, oh, cool, you're better at football than me, but can you beat me up? No. So it's like, dang, you're right. So I can't trump that. You know? So sorry, that's just a question I had.
No, that was a good question.
I like that.
That was a good
questions like
content right there. The good content right there. Maybe not so good content. I just wanted to bring this up because I you talked about DK Metcalf today in running and that sort of thing, and there's been just kind of this trend in sports, and it's growing. And I'm not here to say yay or nay on anything of the nature of what we're about to get into in some certain specifics, but I just wanted kind of your G version, your very light version takes on this headline in this article. So let me read this headline to you, and then you just tell me your response. Really, I read the headline, the first sentence, and then we can go from there because everything else is just, it's window dressing of what this headline is. Headline: Montana governor signs bill banning transgender students from sports teams. Montana's governor has signed a bill that bans transgender athletes from competing on on school and university sports teams that correspond with their gender. And the rest of this article kind of goes on to talk about that. What are you guys' takes on that? I am curious. It does relate to sports. It does relate to kind of the trend of where American and world sports are going. So I do think it's something that kind of is in the wheelhouse of what we talk about. Obviously, as the world continues to change, these things continue to kind of become more present, and so there seems to be a very mixed bag on whether or not this is going to be allowed to continue or how it's going to continue. Um, and again, I'm not here to talk about whether you think transgender is good or bad, and I'm not trying to um, discriminate against anybody of any sort of nature. We fortunately live in a free country where, although I think I know the opinions of both of you on these matters, we can have different opinions,
Right.
and that doesn't mean that I hate anybody or that I would not show them genuine love as it relates to their struggles. So, with what they, the discrimination that they do go through by being completely misunderstood. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about this specific thing? People who were born one gender feel like they belong to a different gender, so they go through the necessary changes or what they determine to be the necessary changes, but they still want to play in sports. How do we handle this?
Um, so I've been so split on this whole thing ever since it started to come up, because on one side you have some of these athletes that are playing that feel like they're being snubbed, and I'm not gonna like use general terms, like like it's usually the things you hear about is like the women's sports team feels like they were snubbed out of their number one spot or whatever it is, their championship, because there was a transgender male, or I don't know how you say it, but there was
I don't know how that works.
I don't, and I never
There's
want to
someone
get it
who
wrong.
there's someone who's trans. Let's just
Right.
yeah.
It's like,
So
what do you call them if they were a man turning into a woman? Is that a trans man or is that a trans woman? If they were a man,
I need to get
turning-
more educated on this
I know,
These are
I don't
things
know
I would
that
like to be
either.
more educated on before I take stabs at.
Yeah.
Yes.
right.
Let's
So
be-
anyway, and it's the women's sports teams that are saying we feel like a man who is identifies as a female came in here and stole this from us. And there's like a genuine point to that argument, because in their mind it's not, they're not facing a woman, they're facing a man. And so I get that. And so the other side of it is, I don't think that this is just guys and girls trying to either be the best at their sport, so they change their gender, or they want to just be thrown around or something like that. I don't think it's that. I think this is genuinely people who truly believe their identity is the other gender, and they just want to do what that gender would do, and they want to go with what they want to do. And so I'm so split, because that's actually what they truly believe and what they want, and I'm not about to be like, well, no, you can't have what you want because I don't think that, because so and so doesn't think that this is okay, and this people group says that that's wrong, and all this stuff. I don't want to be the person to tell them that their identity is wrong. That's my personal thing. So it's like I'm so split on it, because you see the one side of it of they feel like they've been cheated out of something, and then the other side of they genuinely, that's what they believe that they are, and that's what they hold to, and that's their value, and that's where they find their value in life. So I don't know, it's really tough banning it. I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it's so difficult to really have like a full thought on it, because I don't want to be insensitive to a people group just because that they have an advantage, because obviously there's a clear advantage to a male, a biological male who identifies as a female, going and running, like sprinting, right? They're most likely going to be better, or even lifting. We've seen lifting and wrestling. They're going to be better at it. So I don't know. It's tough. It's
or
a
at least
tough
they
one.
have the potential to be better at it, right?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because there could be some female athletes that are just monster
There are
athletes.
there are a lot of female athletes out there that could kick my rear end at just
Right.
about anything. So let's
Exactly,
be clear about that.
Absolutely.
We are not going to go there by any means, because
Right.
I know for sure that there is a boatload of people out there of different genders than me on all gender platforms that could kick my rear end. So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Actually, my son could probably outrun me. So, and he's not even 2 yet. That's not that much of an exaggeration because that boy runs everywhere. So,
So on this article, I didn't read it. Does the governor give a reason for banning it, or is it just it just says he banned it?
I read through it a little bit, and it's uh let's see. Let me see if I can find the spot, but no, there's not a whole lot of
Hmm.
you know,
Because that would be
there's not a whole lot of platitudes by the governor in this sense. He
okay.
just
Because that would be that was like my big question when I was reading is what was his reasoning for banning? Because I think like his reasoning for banning could change the narrative. If he was banning this from happening because out of safety reasons for players, then I can understand that a little more as opposed to if he was just banning it just because he doesn't agree with it.
Right.
I think that's different. So that's why I was just wondering if he gave reasonings or if the reasons were known for this. Because well, for me, like you guys, this is a tough one because at the end of the day, for trans people, just like any group of people, um, they are a human being who they feel, they have emotions, they have worries and fears, anxieties, like just like all of us as human beings. And so we can't discount that what they're feeling is real and that they have the integrity that every human should have.
Right.
And so it's tough because they have a passion to play a sport. They want to play a sport. I get that. However, there are some times where we've seen cases either where there is a man who identifies as a woman wants to go play women's sports. And some of these sports are very physical. There's a lot of contact made, and there's been some bad injuries. So it's MMA and boxing, for instance, where there was a boxing match not too long ago where there was a man who identified as a woman entered a women's fight and really messed that girl up like really bad, and that wouldn't have happened if
Right.
if she was fighting a female. And so that you do kind of have to take that into consideration with some of these sports is that there is at the anatomical level. I get you identify as another gender, but anatomically you still have that testosterone in you that makes you way more powerful
Right.
and is a potentially dangerous to the person that you're playing against. And so for the safety of those players, that I think that has to be taken into consideration because if people are really getting messed up, and then you go into the whole other aspect with like weightlifting, if you have a man identifying as a woman going into women's weightlifting, that's going to mess up all the records from before. So are
Right.
you going to how are you going to go into the back with like that's going to change everything?
yeah, I was about to say there's beyond the gender level of autonomy, there's other anatomical differences that gender transitioning surgeries and stuff of that nature might not be able to fix or
Sure.
Right.
change.
Right.
Changes may be a better word.
Right. And because of that, it's gonna put other players in a dangerous position, and it is going to give an unfair advantage, which then the whole structure of the sport and the organization and stuff will have to change in order to accommodate that if this continues. And so I do think that's what makes it very very difficult is you can't deny that there is an advantage, and you can't deny that there are like people's safety is at stake
Yeah.
in some of these sports. And
Yeah.
so like if so for me if like the governor was banning it for that reason out of safety protocols, I can understand that. If it was him just banning it just because he's like, well, I just don't even transgender this, I can't, no, I just don't agree with it,
Yeah.
then it's like, well, okay, so it's just your opinion, like is it kind of like a bias against them? So that's where I would need to find out more about this dude. But there's no doubt it is a gray area because I think like again I think I know. No, I mean I know each of you guys. I probably know where all of us stand on this at some point. But it is when it comes down to sports because it's something that if you like something, you want to do it.
Right.
If you want to play sport, you want to play a sport, and I don't think you should be robbed of that. But I also just with anything else in life, for you, me, and whoever else we know, it's we want to do something, but there are some times where we have to think about the other people that it might affect. And I do think that this is a case. It's like, yes, you want to play. We want you to be able to play, but you also have to take into account the others that are around you, and how this can affect them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough.
So my thought was, yeah, if there wasn't really much detail other than this was like a political statement, and I think that part is wrong. I did see that the article I read was from the Guardian, and it linked to a medical review that said that there are no clear cut in a medical study competitive, like they did a study on this, no competitive advantage for anybody who is transgender in either a male sport or a female sport. So, but the article that said that, but this is the thing, is that the reason why they said that, actually, let me just read this to you. So this is what it said. um Sports and Transgender People, a systematic review of the literature relating to public or to sport participation and competitive sports policies. And so the results, skip down to that, says, in addition to sports related physical activity, I'm sorry, in relation to sports related physical activity, this review found that the lack of inclusive and comfortable environments to be the primary barrier to participation for transgender people. This review also found transgender people had a mostly negative experience in competitive sports because of the restrictions the sports policies placed on them. The majority of transgender competitive sports policies that were reviewed were not evidence based. So, in other words, this is why these things are so difficult to talk about, because you could say there could be an unclear advantage, and someone could say, actually, a study that came out and said that there is not a advantage for people who are transgender. But then someone could say, well, of course the study came out and said that, because anytime this happens, there's some sort of policy in place that doesn't allow this to happen to the level that we want it, it could happen to make it more fair. So I mean, you could go back and forth and on forever. I had a good conversation with my wife about this on the way home, because I had heard about this, and I saw a comment, and I on on Facebook, people comment all sorts of weird things, and
Mhm.
I actually which they're all arguing with each other, it doesn't
Really?
get anywhere, but sometimes it's fun to read through them. Like, you ever been up to 3 or 4 in the morning just reading through
Oh
comments, like,
yeah.
oh, well, who's gonna win this argument? Like, and no one actually wins, but
We all
eventually,
lose. We
eventually
all lose.
someone eventually someone dives into a your mama joke or something, and then it's all over. So,
Mhm.
um, but anyway, someone commented uh that people who are transgender should still be allowed to participate in sports, but maybe not be able to win on a competitive level in individualistic sports. And the reason given was, with all the struggles that we have in this country with obesity and with people, the diabetes crisis and all these other health related things. Why would we tell people who want to be athletic that they can't be because of their identity as it relates to gender? So I don't think we're that far away from having like transgender like sports leagues. I think that's probably something that will come as like the long-term solution. So we're in like the growing phase of that coming. I also think I heard somewhere once that like the NBA has considered like experimenting with a combined league of the NBA and the WNBA. Like, I think some things of this nature are coming. I've heard these things before, like percolating. So I think these are problems that we're going to be facing. And I don't mean problems as in like the people are problems. I mean like the challenges of how are you going to put people on a a wide range of gender identity as it relates in America today on the same playing field with different anatomical structures, and figure out how they're going to all play together. So uh I, I I would agree with both of you, though, that as it currently stands, I do think people should, if it's an individual sport like track running or something like that, allow them to participate. But if an anatomical male is running in a female sport and it's
Yeah.
medically proven that they have an advantage, I don't know if it's fair, or and even it changes all the record books. Like, how do you handle those things? I think eventually you get to like we have male, female, and then you know non-gender identity or something like that, type sports for these sort of things,
Yeah.
and see where it goes from there. And I think those things will actually grow. Um, and I think it'll probably grow more on the college level, because where I think a lot of parents are pretty consistent with wanting their kids to be happy with whatever they choose. I have a hard time seeing a lot of parents shelling out 20, 30, 50, $100,000 for a gender transition for kids. Never mind um the implications of that on every other level. but like
Yeah.
just the expense, just think about it in those terms. What parent is going to spend 100,000, or most parents can't spend $100,000 for their kid to go through some sort of transition. So it'll probably happen on a college level when those things are more, capable of happening, and again, these are all things I feel like I need to do more research on, but I do feel like where we currently stand, these kind of things are continuing to trend, and I would be curious to know how it's going to relate kind of to the big sports that we talk about, and what is going to happen if this gets all the way to like a big sport, or how are they going to handle it? I'm very curious to know how that happens.
But what do we know? You know, we're
Well,
just pre-married idiots.
it was it was a good run, boys.
Yeah.
On a less controversial note, there was something that came up this week about the NFL that I thought was interesting, and I wanted your take on it as well. Apparently, the NFL Players Association is wanting to like start getting into like the opening levels of a lockout to so that their players don't have to do like off-season trainings. And their argument is that last season proved that you didn't need to be as vigorous in your off-season trainings
I knew
as
that was going to happen.
that's A.
I
And B, apparently our boy Tom Brady got up in front of this group of
Oh.
people and said there's no effing pitcher throwing 100 miles an hour in December. Why are we all hitting each other full speed in April? Something to that effect. Do you guys agree or disagree to that?
Well, I knew after last year because of everything that COVID, like, it shortened the off season, and then they still had a successful season for obviously without fans. I knew as soon as that season wrapped up that players are going to be like, bro, we could just do this all the time. And so when that happened, when this story broke, I was like, and there it is, because the players are always going to look for an easier route. As far as with the train, like with what Brady was saying, so the past couple of years, Brady's been dodging those kind of workouts and stuff anyways. Even with like the Patriots, I think Felger and Maz would talk about that all the time. So I think he is at the point in his career where he just doesn't want to do that stuff anymore. So
Yeah, I agree.
of course he's leading that charge right now. I understand the player's point of view in that they're getting paid millions of dollars and they want to stay healthy, they want to stay fresh. And adding hitting practices early in the year, I can understand them not wanting to do that just so they could stay healthier. However, you're grown men. Like I feel like you can handle it. I don't know, because I feel like that, because what happens is if you don't do a lot of contact hitting, you get horrible tackling during the season. That happens all the time.
I was just gonna say, if you don't do any like slow speed hitting in a controlled environment,
You need to teach people, especially with the rules now.
doesn't that increase the probability of getting hurt in an uncontrolled environment?
Yeah.
Especially now because you have to teach, like, I mean, you can't go towards the head, you can't launch at players' knees, so you have to coach tackling more now because of all the rules. And so I think if they were to take that out, you're going to see a lot of messy hits, or either bad tackling, like missed tackles, injuries, a lot of penalties. So
Yeah, there's a
I
part
think
of
you
me
need
that's
to coach that. You need to coach that.
there's a part of me that says if the product on the field doesn't change, I don't really care. And I think that probably part of me is still true. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I feel like year after year after year after year of very scaled back off seasons will result in a long term worse product on the field. And I don't want that. Plus, like, this goes back to that whole conversation of you signed a contract saying that this is what you are going to do
Right.
for the next X amount of years.
And you
If
get
I
paid
said
very well for that.
if I said I just want to do cable, I don't want to do all the compliance stuff at my job that relates to cable, you know what they would say? Thank you, sir. We'll find somebody else to do your
Yeah.
job for you. Like, and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
relate their job to mine in the sense that like it's the apples to apples kind of thing, but conceptually, there's the job that I do, which is make people's internet work, and then there's all the other things that my company wants me to do because they've asked me. And you know why I do them? Because they sign my paycheck.
Right.
Like start there. I do some of them because it actually makes sense to do a lot of them. But like,
Yeah.
start with it signs my paycheck. So if Robert Kraft is signing your paycheck and he says you show up to Bill's practices, you show up to Bill's practices, and wouldn't you know it, when you show up to Bill's practices, you're more apt to be successful at the thing you actually feel like you want to do with your life.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I think
I
honestly,
agree.
my take is they should just suck it up and do it. Quit complaining. Don't become soft. It's the NFL.
Yeah, seriously. I don't get, and I can understand, like, maybe there's, and I think they've scaled back a lot of the content, and I think it's been
They
good. Like,
have. They
I
scaled a
don't
lot back.
I don't know if you need 4 preseason games. I'm glad I
No,
think they're dumping one. I just
they
think
did.
that
Yeah, it's only 3 now.
I don't think they need that. That was really just for tickets. That's
Yep.
all that was. It was for
That's for
the
owners' pockets.
owners' pockets, and the injuries that would happen in those, or in the off season stuff.
That happened to Edelman once out the whole season because of the
Oh,
preseason game.
against the Lions, yeah,
Yep.
the last preseason game.
The preseason stuff I get, because now you're in a mostly uncontrolled environment. Even though we all know the first couple games, like, they're all like, yeah, we're not really going to hit each other that bad because we really don't want anybody. But by the last one, you kind of are. So I get
Yeah.
that part. But the off-season stuff where you're just running around with your team and half the guys got red shirts on anyways, which means don't touch that guy. What are you complaining about? Plus, I just think Brady's little comment about, no pitchers throwing 90 miles an hour in December. It's not the same. Like, a pitcher probably actually is working on those things that relate to that all the time because they have to, because
In
They're
December?
working on because
Yeah.
the pitcher's working, and they're working on their skill set that's the most important for them. Which, if you're playing football, tackling and hitting is one
it
of the
relates
most
to
Yeah.
hitting
you know what
people.
I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's like,
that's like a bad take.
it really is.
That's
And
a bad take and a half.
It
'cause
sounds really
by
good.
December, yes, pitchers are throwing the ball by December. That's like late.
Yeah, a lot of
The
those
season
guys.
ends most of the time. The season ends in September. Only a certain amount of teams make it into October. Those guys are in December's late. Like I'm like early
A
December.
lot of those
late
guys play
November.
winter leagues. Yeah. They
I-
go down to Florida or into other countries. They go home and play
Some of them
winter
go to
leagues.
Japan because they don't want an off season.
Yeah, well, Brady, all of a sudden, since leaving New England, he threw up a stink about the number change. Remember that?
Yeah, he's all hot takes right now.
Like, ever since he left New England, now he's just, something pops up.
He's in the
He starts-
media.
Yeah, like, because he like posted stuff on his Instagram about the numbers, saying this is dumb.
Yeah.
NFL needs to repeal this. I hope you're ready for bad football, NFL. And then this thing came up, and it's like, oh man, okay, Tom.
All I'm saying is, if
Jeez.
Tom gets political and runs for president, I'd vote for him.
Yeah, I don't even care what his platform is.
Yeah.
He's the
He's
goat.
got
I want him as my
so,
president.
he's got my vote. Like,
Man, can you imagine TB12 and The Rock facing each other?
Oh, I don't know.
In a-
Didn't he have a MAGA hat in his locker one time?
I think
He did.
I think he's kind of shaded away from that.
Maybe,
actually,
he
hopefully.
did dissociate himself from Trump.
Good.
I think they've all tried very hard to disassociate themselves.
Even
from that.
Bill, yeah, Bill did too.
Good. That makes me happy.
Bill
Then I'd
wrote
vote
that
for him.
letter that Trump
Yeah.
read in New Hampshire right before Trump lost New Hampshire in 2016. But now that this, the past year, I forget, Bill decided not to go to something that was Trump's, and he said,
No, he
I've
gave
learned
him
a lot.
he gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Oh
and
yeah,
was
and he
like,
turned
They
it
said,
down.
like the
Yeah.
highest-
That's
like
what
the
we
highest
talked about.
award as a
That
citizen, and he was like, yeah, I'm all set, thank you.
Well, I guarantee you, Bill was pissed when Trump decided to read that letter that Bill wrote him. Because all of a sudden, like, Trump's like, I have a letter from Bill Belichick. And Bill's probably just like,
No, I think Bill actually
Really?
wrote that for him. I think Bill actually did that for that.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
man.
so. You don't write a letter to the guy running for president and have, like, as a known guy, without saying, "Hey, I'm going to send you something. Read this. See what it does."
Yeah.
Because
Well,
there's some ding dong out there who's like, I'm kind of not sure which guy I'm going to vote for. Oh, Bill's voting for this guy. Well, I guess in Bill we trust.
Yeah.
yeah, seriously. They probably did get a lot of votes that way. Oh,
They
Bill
got-
endorses him. Bill does all. He does no wrong.
Hey,
Ever.
Bill knew to get rid of Logan Mankins. That's all I'm saying, and they won a Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
All right. So that's NFL, right?
Yeah.
NBA, not too much going on since the last time we recorded, except the Lakers did officially fall to the 7th seed. They lost to the Trailblazers the other night.
Welcome to the play-in.
And so odds are they are going to the play-in now, and LeBron is
Aren't they in their chance they're gonna face the Warriors in the play-in?
it's odds are they'll face him. And honestly,
That's not the team you want to face in the play-in.
you don't want to face them, right? Because the Warriors are now 2 games above 500, and they're cooking right now. And so and the Lakers are still hurt. Braun's still hurt. AD hurt himself again. He jacked his back up a couple nights ago. So they play the Warriors in the play, and they're not making it out. They're not. There's a chance that the Lakers could actually completely fall out of the playoffs.
Oof.
Which would I'm all for it. I would love to see the Jazz or the Suns make a deep playoff run.
So are we all in agreement though? The Nets are winning it all this year.
Yeah, once Harden comes back, it's over.
Yeah, I think that's what's
the
gonna happen
Sixers
here.
did take the number 1 seed recently because the Nets did slump for a while. I think they lost 4 in a row because Harden tweaked his hamstring,
Yeah.
so he's been out. But
he was out 2 weeks. Going on. This will be the third week, and
this will be the third week.
Yeah, this
so
will
they
be
had a
Monday.
little because he's their facilitator. He's the guy who runs the whole offense. When he's there, the passes are beautiful. The ball's moving. When he's not there, they get pretty stagnant. So the Sixers have taken the number 1 seed, but if with a healthy Nets team, they're not going to be stopped.
Yeah.
So that's all. I don't. Other than that, NBA's pretty much.
We'll have more to talk about in a
getting
couple
ready
of
to get
weeks.
to the start to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Playoff hockey and playoff basketball at the same time, man. I love this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The playing games start May 18th for the NBA, and they go from Tuesday to Friday, I believe.
I tried hard to follow basketball this year.
Actually, I think I did fairly well with that. I mean, I don't really know a lot about
I
any
saw
of
the
the
Celtics
teams.
lose again today. That was fun. They had a comeback. They were down by like 20.
Are they in playoff contention?
They're slipping. They're down to the 7th seed now, I believe.
Let them miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let
Danny.
them miss.
So they're right now because they're only a game and a half above the 8 seed. So there's a good chance they're going to the play-in tournament.
Fire Danny. Make our take come true, please.
Man, no, I want them to miss the playoffs. That's not what I'm rooting for. Let this super talented team just puke all over its basketball shorts.
And then we'll get rid of Jason
I love
Tatum.
how you phrase things. I don't think they'll keep. I think they might get rid of Brown, actually. I think they might finally deal him this year. So we'll see. But that's all we have to talk about for now because it's going to pick up in the next couple weeks to play in and the playoffs.
We've said that 3 times and then found more stuff to talk about.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I like the NBA. I could talk more about how Steph dropped 49 points and had another game of over 10 threes, but look, I just did. So I won't go into that though. I talk about Steph.
Hey, Aaron. The Rams.
Marshall Voluntary out Carolina. Finish so on turf.
Yeah, now that you're all geeked up, tell us about your plug.
So, guys, as we wrap up, again, just let you know, let your friends, let your family know about who we are. I think we're pretty cool. I think we talk about some cool stuff. And we are all over Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Just look us up, Under.500 Podcasts. Subscribe to either of those platforms. And we also have social media accounts on Instagram and Facebook, Under.500 Podcast, where you can send us direct messages, any questions, comments that you have, and get any updates on when our episodes release. And so you can follow us there as well. And another week in the book, gentlemen. Another week in the book.
All right.
Have a good week, boys.
See you, everybody.
Bye.